Okay, this next section is going to be continuing on with the Windows tools. So we've already looked at the file management in that last section. So this section is going to deal with control panel, looking at some of the other folder options, and then the power options as well. So the control panel itself is just going to be a centralized location to where you can control and adjust many of the settings within Windows. Okay, within that centralized area, everything is accessed through what Windows refers to as applets. Each of these applets will let you go in and make the proper adjustments, change the settings that you want to within the control panel. There's a couple different ways that you can get to the control panel. You can actually right-click on the Start menu within Windows 7 and click Control Panel. You can also left-click on the Start menu, and the control panel is on the right-hand side. Okay, one of the things is by default, the control panel is going to show up in what's known as category view. Okay, which we'll see here in a second. You can see right here, this is the classic view, which you can see. You can change this right here. Okay, and I can show you what the category view looks like. This is going to be the category view of a Windows 7 machine. So as you can see here, this is where you can go in and change, but you can you can easily see the difference. If I drag it right up here, you can see the difference between the category view and the classic or the icon view. Okay, everything is broken down into logical categories here, whereas if I go in and change this to small icons, as you can see in this picture here, everything is then broken down into the specific applet where you can get in and change the settings within the computer. You can also change it to large icons as well. So those are the different views within the control panel. Okay, by default, again, Windows 7 and Windows 8 is going to open up into this category view. Windows XP, which is the older operating system, is going to actually run in this classic or iconic view. Okay, so one of the things that you'll definitely mess with within Windows if you become a technician or an administrator is going in and changing the folder options. This is crucial because by default, Windows has a lot of options turned off for safety reasons. And what I mean by that is if I open up a Windows Explorer window, and if I go to the C drive, notice all I see are generic folders on my root C drive. I don't see any type of hidden files. I don't see any type of file types. I can go in and change this. If I go to Organize, and this, again, this is in Windows 7, I go to Organize, I go to Folder and Search Options, and then within this dialog box, I click on the View tab. This is where you can see everything that's kind of turned off by default. Okay, so right here, set to not show hidden files, folders, or drives. So I want to make that change. Go ahead and show those. I want to make available any empty drives. I want to see file extensions, and then this is a big one, the protected operating system files. Okay, when you click on this one, it's going to pop up a little warning message. Are you sure you want to do this? Okay, so for right now we do. So we click Apply, and right there, just notice how my list on my C drive changed. Okay, all of these that look like they're kind of not really grayed out, but almost transparent, so they're a little bit lighter, those are going to be your hidden files and folders. Okay, in addition to that, you'll also see that individual files in here actually have that file extension, which you can see right here at the back. And again, like we mentioned when we looked at the folder options or the file management, this file extension is going to identify within Windows what that file is supposed to open with and how you're supposed to access that file. Okay, so the reason this is turned off by default is basically for the user's protection. Think about it. If you're an everyday user or novice user and you don't know much about Windows, when you open up your C drive right here, you're going to look and say, okay, my computer says I'm low on disk space. I need to free up some disk space. Oh, well, look right here. This page file.sys is huge. That'll free up a bunch of disk space. I mean, it's going to free up almost 16 gigs for me. I just need to delete that. Okay, the problem there is this page file.sys is your virtual memory within Windows. Okay, so it helps Windows manage the everyday operations within the operating system and everything like that when the RAM is full. So if you were to delete this, it's going to cause memory errors and possibly a memory dump error in a blue screen. Okay, so that's why these things are hidden, so that everyday users don't go in here and start deleting stuff, start accessing stuff, and changing stuff that they shouldn't be doing. Okay, so it's really important that if you go in and change these options within your Windows Explorer, that once you're done, you want to go back here under Organize, Folder and Search Options, again under the View tab, and make sure you change all of these back to the default. Okay, and then let me move this over. You can see again real quick how quickly that changes. Okay, and what all changes. All those hidden files and folders are then gone. Okay, so you want to make sure and turn all this back on whenever you're done working on somebody's computer so that they don't get in and accidentally delete or remove or change files that could damage their computer. Okay, so the next thing we're going to look at is the power modes. Okay, Windows has always had a few different types of power modes. Okay, and basically this allows us to save batteries and stuff like that on our laptops. That's the main area where we're concerned with this. Let's face it, desktops is not that big of a deal because they have constant power. Okay, and now with LCDs and and LED monitors, you know, they're a whole lot less power hungry than those old CRT big monitors, so we don't have to worry about it as much. Okay, so within sleep mode or within the power saving mode, there's a couple different options that you have. Okay, you have the normal sleep mode, which is known as suspend, where everything is going to be saved to RAM. Okay, and then you have hibernation. Okay, the difference between the hibernation and sleep is basically where everything is put off to whenever your computer goes to sleep. So just to kind of show you a little illustration here. Okay, if this is our computer here, and then we have our RAM up here and our hard drive here. Okay, essentially what you're gonna see here is computer, RAM, and then hard drive. What we're going to see is when a computer actually goes to sleep, then your information comes from here to RAM. Okay, so that's sleep mode. And the nice thing about this is when you come back to wake up your computer, you press the keyboard, you move the mouse, and then it automatically pulls that information from RAM back and wakes your computer up. So you're looking at usually half a second to a second or two to actually get this information back. So what happens with hibernation is that it actually takes the info from RAM and pushes it off to the hard drive. Okay, so it stores on the hard drive to try to get a deeper power state so that it can save more power. The problem with this is that Microsoft has continuously had issues with their hibernation state. So again, ideally hibernation means when you wake up, you come back from the hard drive to your computer. The problem is right here, they have generally had issues getting it to come up out of hibernation state. The computer will lock up, you'll lose all of your work, your settings, and everything like that. Okay, so what they've done in Windows 7 and in Windows 8 is they've created a hybrid sleep. And what this does is it actually does a combination of both. Okay, it keeps the information here in RAM, but it also copies it to the hard drive. And the reason this still saves power is because Windows 7 is programmed different to where it has more control over the hardware itself. So it can actually save power more because of the way it communicates with the hardware. So this hybrid sleep state would then have access to both of these whenever the computer wakes up, so that if it cannot pull it from the hard drive, it still has that backup copy there on RAM. Okay, so that's how the sleep mode and hibernation mode work within Windows 7 and Windows